The Furies are at home in the mirror. It is their address. Even the clearest water, if deep enough, can drown. Never think to surprise them. Your face approaching ever so friendly as the white flag they ignore. There is no truce with the Furies. A mirror's temperature is always at 0. It is ice in the veins. Its camera is an X-ray. It is a chalice held out to you in silent communion, where gaspingly you partake of a shifting identity never your own. An excerpt from this poem by R.S. Thomas presents itself to you as the first line in Disco Elysium. It paints a bleak picture of the man into whose shoes you are about to step. A man whose past triumphs have long been forgotten, and the lustre of his youth faded, leaving only a desire to escape the agonizing reality that remains. The Furies, creatures in Greek mythology, are said to be the servants of hell and vengeance, chasing wrongdoers across the world with vicious fury, until their quarry was driven mad from pain and guilt. Thomas's poem, however, suggests that these creatures live in the mirror, in our own self-perception, and thus we are driven mad through the self-flagellation we so often subject ourselves to upon introspection. Estonia-based developer ZAUM's Disco Elysium was even in development titled No Truce with the Furies. It puts us in the shoes of Harrier Dubois, whose immense self-destruction provides, ironically, his best opportunity at achieving a new reality. In the apocalyptic binging session that instigates Harry's total memory loss, we are told by a concerned neighbour that Harry was listening to disco as he attempted to drown his suffering in an alcoholic and narcotic void. Through conversations throughout the game, we come to see that the concept of disco is used throughout Disco Elysium as a representation of the past, of a naive, more hopeful time. A time that has long since been forgotten by the jaded, politically divided inhabitants of Revachol. Harry's smile cum grimace that remains fixed upon his face is indicative of him as a whole. He is stuck in the past, even in a physical sense, in a time that was less devastating to his soul. Even the game's title suggests a form of comfort in living in the past. Elysium is another reference to Greek mythology, to the fields of revelry and merriment that awaited the most noble in life when they died. A comparison can be made to heaven. Thus, the title, Disco Elysium, connects the movement of the past, of a time long gone, to a place of comfort and freedom from worries. As the game progresses, however, the idea that one must flee into memories of the past to find meaning and comfort is challenged. As Harry slowly begins to get a sense of just how devastating existence was to him, he is also given the opportunity to seek a new identity, a new reality for himself, as he is no longer shackled to his emotional baggage. This decision, however, is not made for you. It is your task as the player, as Harry, to decide which direction his life will take. From a communist hobo cop to a superstar cop on the grind for money, Disco Elysium provides you with myriad opportunities to define this new Harry. The politics of Disco Elysium, although at the front and centre of the game's story, are not, I believe, intended solely as an avenue of political discourse. Instead, they serve as a way of forcing Harry to live in his present, to engage with the world he has abandoned for his addiction to living in the past. To this end, the game does not force you to adhere to your previously established morals, or to find the most moral path. It simply presents the choices and manipulates the player's desire to participate. Furthermore, it is through the criticism of all corners of the political compass that the player is brought to realize that none have a perfect vision, and that striving for these idealist futures can be just as much of an escape as dwelling in an extinct past. As so often, pining for a non-existent future takes precedence over immediacy. This is not to encourage apathy, however, as you are encouraged to take a stance on everything, from the existence of ghosts to which social class should be fed to the pigs. There is, of course, an option for neutrality, but with it comes a subtle condemnation of the unwillingness to dare to have an opinion. The game pushes you towards action, towards making a choice, towards taking a leap of faith to stand by your opinions. You may fail as a result of this choice, but often the failures can provide you with new insight and a chance at improvement. Disco Elysium is at its strongest in these moments, when it transforms a failure into just another experience that does not hinder the player, but rather redirects them onto a new path. It is through these moments that you slowly begin to understand that failure is not to be feared, but rather experienced in all its lows. You must learn to accept the outcome and power onwards nonetheless. Harry Dubois is not the only character to be beset by flaws and idiosyncrasies. Many, if not all, characters are subject to judgment for their mistakes, flaws, and beliefs. The game, however, labours to prove that just as Harry, and by extension you, the player, are not defined by your errors, so too are those around you. If you want to succeed at your task of solving a murder, you must be willing to look past the errors in others, just as the game asks you to look past those of Harry, and see things as they are in the present, without the influence of opinion creeping in. You are not asked to forget the past entirely, however. A sequence towards the end of the game gives you the opportunity to, rather than dwelling in the past, reinvigorate the experience of it in the present. For Harry, this means resurrecting Disco, hinting at a rekindling of the hope that had seemed completely lost to history. Through this, Disco Elysium marries the comfort of the past to the life in experiencing the present, suggesting that although the past should be left behind, the hopefulness and positivity it contained should not. In this, we find out the value of the experience of living for the immediate moment. Although not explicitly stated, Disco Elysium gives us pleasure and entertainment through the minuscule details of the present moment. The presence of Harry's mind, body, and soul in conversation gives us a representation of all the nuance and flavour that can be discovered when we allow ourselves a moment for self-awareness in everyday life. In some ways, Harry is better than many of us, as he gives every part of himself a chance to engage with reality, and gives us a taste of this mindfulness through their input in conversations. Many of the game's effective moments are the quieter ones, sharing a piece of salami with a stranger beside a dingy canal. Looking for cans in the fading light to recycle for some spare change. Admiring an industrial crane with your partner. These moments, while insignificant, reveal the simple beauty of presence, without the influence of pressures, politics, or the past. They show that while many draw meanings from life through their memories or beliefs, it can be far more meaningful to allow the world to wash over you, even for a moment, and see what your mind brings forth. Be it positive, negative, or just observational. The quiet moments of reflection in Disco Elysium reveal that while the past can be seemingly inescapable, a mindful recognition of the present, alongside a willingness to act, provides reprieve from its oppressive grasp. Although Harry's struggles seem to be nothing but suffering and disappointment, upon closer inspection, ZAUM attempts to show us that whether we fall or fly, the most important thing is to take the leap.